We welcome in our 1320 Kings insider, James Ham. Ham, are you into the WNBA playoffs? You're a basketball guy. Are you into the WNBA at all?
You know, I haven't jumped in this season, so it's been pretty low key. But my money's on Kara. So sorry, Kenny. Like, where's the betting line on that one? I'm gonna do one of those million to win $80. I think would be the odds that I'd get there.
And here's what I fear though, because Kenny can shoot. Like I know Kenny can ball. My fear is Kenny hits them, and then this becomes ultra competitive, and then all of a sudden there's a game breaking out, and compound Caraway's compound here, and it becomes a thing.
I mean, no, what would happen? We would like literally just keep shooting until, I don't know, somebody passed out. Probably I would pass out. Because if I beat her, she'd be like, oh, no, we need to run that back. And then if she beats me, no, we need to run that back.
No, here's the thing, though. If you beat her, yeah, you're absolutely right. She's going to run it back. And then she'll beat you, but then she'll want to beat you at least 4 or 5 more times just so you know that the first one was a fluke.
Then we just going to keep shooting.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Y'all need to stop playing in your chat. I don't miss. Y'all not hearing me. I don't miss. Y'all not hearing me.
Okay. Hammer.
It's me, Steph, Kara. That's it. That's the list. I don't miss.
Nobody healed.
No.
No Klay Thompson necessary. No Reggie Miller. No Ray Allen. It's you, Kara, and Steph.
That's it. That's the list, man.
Kenny's the Splash brother. They just don't acknowledge him because he's so darker than the other ones. They're like,
I'm the Splash cousin.
Yeah,
I'm in the family. Like I said, to get in the Splash family, you got to be me.
You on the Dell side. Yeah, you're on the Dell side of the family. You're on the Dell and Michael side of the Splash brother family. James, news of the day: Chet Holmgren, foot injury. Torn ligaments in his foot. This is what so many people were concerned about leading into the draft. Your reaction when you heard the news this morning from The Athletic?
You know, I think it's really interesting what we're seeing here over the last couple of years, but really it's this offseason. We're seeing all of these crazy programs and a lot of these players going out there and playing in games that you normally wouldn't see. Like, I don't remember LeBron James going up to Jamal Crawford's camp and playing a bunch of games in the
14 years, I think it's been since he last did that.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's really interesting to see this happening. And I think Chet heard it trying to defend LeBron on a breakaway, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to suspend that game because the court wasn't safe because it got moisture on it. And so you got to sit there and wonder, like, at what point do teams go, hey, we're not really comfortable with this. Like, what are you doing? Why are you playing? You're under contract for $47 million. What are you doing? Or in Chet Holmgren's case, he's under contract for like $10 million, $10 million, $11 million a year at this point. And, I don't think it's career threatening, but anytime a 7-footer breaks something or damages something in a foot, like it's that oh no, here we go thing, and you just hope that it's not major and that it's not a full season or 4 months or something like that. It could be a long time, and I get players love the game. I get that they want to go out there and play. I get that we got European players playing right now overseas like Sabonis, but playing in pro-am games on courts where people are all around the court. It's not safe distance. It's not, there's a lot of questions that I would have about, playing in something like that.
Yeah, I understand that. I look at it where like these guys are playing basketball regardless. And like in that particular case, like if he was on a fast break and there was too many people on the baseline, and he rolled his ankle on somebody in the baseline, and yeah, you probably wouldn't want him or anybody playing in that situation again. But he hurt himself trying to guard LeBron. I mean, that's knock on wood. I don't have anything around here, but Davion Mitchell could hurt himself when he goes one-on-one against his people in his camp, when he's working on his game. Like these guys, they play basketball. They probably play harder at Rico Hines than they do in those pro-ams. So like those guys can get hurt the same way. It's something that I feel like these teams and even the players and the agents and everybody, they just got to kind of close their eyes and cross their fingers when these guys, because they're going to play in a competitive nature, whether it's at the pro-am in a closed workout or an open run with other NBA guys. It's going to happen. You just got to hope nothing bad happens.
No, I get you. And I would just say that if I'm a team, I want an insurance policy for when you're in the off season, or I want it written into your contract that, like, look, if you're done, like we watch DeMarcus Cousins was just doing, some pickup stuff when he blew out his ACL, and they had all on video, and boom, you could tell right away it was done. Like if you're under
Clay too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're under contract, though, like you need some assurances if you're a team that you're not going to do these things that, like, again, I don't know all of the circumstances of Jamal Crawford's, the gym and everything up there. I just know that the court was deemed unsafe, like, very shortly after that injury. And, like, you have to, there has to be some sort of regulation on how it's, being put together, and how the fans are going to be like how the fans are going to be involved. Like NBA security, like I'm sure their job is big enough already, but like there should be some sort of mechanism in place where teams have some sort of recourse when something like this happens. So I'm sure like Chet feels bad about it, and they feel bad that this happened. But you just hope it doesn't impact his career, and you hope that he bounces right back and he's able to get out there and a month or two and be ready when the regular season starts.
I was 1,000% confident you would have a reaction like that, because I feel like that conversation is at the very least going to be had within the NBA offices. I feel like they were kind of waiting, like, okay, it's all good. Okay, we got through the Drew League. Okay, no, it's fine. And, Tatum's out there too. Oh, LeBron's doing it again. Okay, cool. And then, okay, here it is, number 2 overall pick in the draft. All right. Now, again, whether they actually do anything about it is a different conversation, but whether there's more oversight on courts or arena setups or things like that, I think will be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I mean, these guys do, they play in pickup games. They go to a local gym and they work out, and other guys show up and they get some game action in. So, I mean, you can't regulate everything. But if you're going to put on these big events where there are so many people there, and, the environment itself might not be conducive to player safety, then that's a problem.
Yeah. I think some of it though comes back to the culture of the game and how they were brought up. Like that I think for LeBron, for Chet, like this is part of the culture of being a hooper. You know what I mean? Like it's cool that we play in these 17,000 seat arenas, but sometimes you got to get back to the basics, get back to the people, and playing these pro-ams and being these 1,500 capacity gyms, and play that. There's an allure to that.
That you cram 2,500 people into.
right. There's an allure to. There's a reason why Kobe went and played in the Drew. You know what I mean? Because it's like, yeah, this is hoop right here. It's not none of that other stuff that's cool too, but this is hoop. And there's an allure to that. And I like your idea, James, of saying if I'm one of the owners or whatever, all right, you can go do that, but I need an insurance policy. I need you got to write something out to say, we're not liable for your contracts, whatever you want to do. If you want to play that, go ahead, but you got to assume some of the risk if you play.
Yeah, something like, hey, look, if you're going to miss 40 games, then, I need to be reimbursed for that. Mm-hmm. Like, why should I pay your salary when you're going to miss, again, OKC is going to have to pay his salary no matter what. It's a guaranteed contract. So I would want like an insurance policy in place. And maybe like the gym will have some sort of insurance policy, but we're talking like some sort of indemnification like plan where like there might be a $25,000 injury settlement or something.
Right.
We're not talking about, something that's major like this. And I'll tell you this, like when Scala Sierra was here in Sacramento after his rookie season, he invited me and I believe Mark Spears to go to Haiti with him on his on his return home. He had not been home since he left Haiti when he was like 13, after the earthquake, after he had been, basically had his legs. Well, he got squashed underneath a wall with his chest to his knees, and his legs. It took him, I think, 2 months to learn how to walk again because he was stuck in that position for like 8 hours or something. It's like this incredible story. Well, he asked, hey, would you like to go? And I said, yeah, and I was working with NBC. We were going through the approval process. And at the last second, Scal switched his representation. And when he did that, the NBA pulled the plug. The NBA said, hey, look, we're not going to send security and you're going to an unsecure place. And anytime there is something where a group of players are going to Basketball Without Borders or they're going to go play in this or that, there's usually NBA security that's involved in the situation. And they deemed the Haiti trip like it just wasn't safe. And so NBC said, well, if they're not going to send security, we're not going to send security, so you're not going. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I understand. But my point being is that there are these things where, there are scheduled or unscheduled things that the NBA is involved with, and they should be checking things like court or like clearance on the baseline and stuff like that. If you're going to have like an event like this, if it's just going to be, a couple of guys doing pickup games and stuff like that, that's one thing. But we even had, like, you remember when the lockout hit and Dante Green did the Goon Squad Classic. That's one of those things where, like, the league couldn't say anything because it was during the lockout, but there were a bunch of hoops to jump through, and there were insurance policies and everything else. It was pretty crazy.
Regardless of the severity of Chet Holmgren's injury, do you think he plays at all this year?
That's a good question. I mean, this is their excuse, right? They're always looking for one.
That's exactly what we were talking about. Yeah. They got one more. They got one more in them to really take advantage of the draft.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they must have like a fan thing where they get 10 fans in a line and they say, okay, if we're gonna go one by one down this line, if you can't spell Shea Gilgeous-Alexander correctly, we need like 7 of you to do it. If more than 3 of you miss, then he's not going to play the last 40 games of the season. And then that's what happens. Oh, shoot, look, yeah, you didn't spell Shea right. And there's an extra U in there, sorry. Like, that's what it feels like with them. Like, oh, you missed the hyphen. I didn't hear you say hyphen. So he's out 20 games. Now, let's see if anyone else misses. Oklahoma's always looking for an excuse to reset this thing and to not play guys, especially with this upcoming draft. And it's a shame because we're watching some really, really talented young players there that could grow into something special. But at the same time, you've developed the biggest culture of losing, outside of Sacramento. And so how do you fix that when you literally don't want guys to win games for a long time, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, hey, next year it's go time. Well, what does that mean? We've never done that. Like, are you going to switch coaches? Are you going to switch everything? I'm not quite sure. And so it's an interesting, they're basically following the Philadelphia, the process and waiting for a superstar.
I'm sorry. I feel like that's a bit unfair because it's only been like 3 seasons, right? Because they made the playoffs with Chris Paul, so it's not like this is they're not like 5, 6, 7 years into this. Like, I didn't think they would, whether Chet Holmgren plays 82 games or none, I didn't think they were going to be particularly good this year. And we talked, following the draft, that they were probably going to put themselves in prime position at the end of the season or towards the end of a season to make sure they secured, if nothing else, a chance to land the number 1 overall pick, certainly one of the bottom 4 records or something very, very, very close to it. And, like, regardless of whether Chet played, I thought that's where they were going to be. I don't think it's the worst thing if next year is the year that they're like, all right, let's go, let's do this. So this upcoming off season is the season. Let's steal some of these picks and see if we can get a established player in here to kind of anchor all of these young guys we got. Because I feel like it's only been a couple of years that this team has been bad. Now, granted, they've been really bad, but it hasn't been that long.
Yeah, it's 2 years. They're going on year 3, but I think there's a difference between being really bad and being intentionally bad. Like, again, like they were.
Well, what's worse? Like, is it worse intent? Is what Oklahoma City's doing worse than what Sacramento has been? Like, Sacramento was unintentionally bad.
No, I fully get what you're saying. I just think, at what point do you say that losing and quitting and throwing the towel in on seasons is okay?
No, I get that. I understand.
Yeah. So, and that's where, of course, I think with Philadelphia, it was to an extreme. They were kind of stuck in the perpetual Sacramento Kings situation where, they're winning 30-something games a year, and they just threw in the towel, and, they win like 13, 14, 15 games for 3 straight years. And then coming out of that, they start winning 28, and then boom, all of a sudden they're a good team. And you can see like where it works. But at the same time, like, you're just wasting away. You're taking at least, I think it's 90 million. It might be more than that now in television money. You're just kind of like forfeiting everything in hopes that you can find one of those pieces. And again, I think it worked with Philadelphia. Eventually, they were able to get Joel Embiid, and then they sat him for 2 years so they could keep doing the process. They drafted Nerlens Noel and shut him down for a year. Even though that's not what had to happen. They drafted Ben Simmons and sat him down for a year. It just became like this perpetual cycle of like, look, we're not even going to try to compete. And I get it. I mean, it works to some extent, or it has worked in the past.
It gets you to the second round of the playoffs. That's what we've established.
There you
It'll
go.
Get you it hasn't gotten you any further. It gets you to the second round of the playoffs.
And it takes you like 8 years to get there.
Yeah,
that's the other thing people don't.
And you better land a Joel in the process. Like, you better land a penthouse player in the process.
We're talking about a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, right
now, and it's a superstar even. And that's what people. I was telling Damien. That's what they forget when you go through this tanking process. And it's cool. I understand the idea of doing it. Like, I get it, and I get where it makes sense to a lot of people. It's franchise specific, but also, if you're going to do it, people are like, oh, yeah, you tank for, 2 or 3 drafts or 3 or 4 years, and then it's all good. Like, this is like a decade-long process to maybe get a championship. You might just see like a decade worth of bad basketball. That's a possibility too.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's a mess. Like, and the NBA has done their best to sort of alleviate some of this situation where teams are tanking, but that doesn't mean that they're going to have all the answers. I mean, clearly, they're not going to have a ton of answers for how you stop a team from running their business the way they want to run it. And if you can't, I guess like the only time we've really seen the NBA put their foot down with an owner is in 2 situations. It's with the Donald Sterling situation, and that was more of a, it was 3 or 4 decades of him doing things that were not okay, but also him completely just throwing a middle finger at the league and moving a team from San Diego to LA. And then the other time is the Maloofs, where they stepped in and said, look, you guys are just doing things that don't work. I don't think the league's going to do anything about it because it's intriguing for some people and they're okay with it. And, you want to see if it works out, I guess. And as long as fans are showing up and watching games in Oklahoma, as long as they're making payroll, then you're not going to have too much issue with it.
James, Kevin Durant will not be traded to Sacramento. And so, that whole saga came to its very anticlimactic conclusion that I think most of us expected was on the way. Maybe we didn't expect it to happen on August 23rd, but I think it's the conclusion a lot of us thought we were going to get. Do you think there was any was that just the perfect storm of, Katie, this isn't going to work, like we can't trade you? Or was there a swing in what's the era called? The player empowerment era, to where Joe Tsai says, no, 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 no. I'm taking some power back for the owners here.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you're the Nets and you're looking at what you're going to do and how you're going to move forward as a franchise, you have to get as many pieces as possible. And that was a team that was supposed to compete, right? It was supposed to compete for a championship. And they didn't want to do what Utah's doing and taking this major step backwards. So is this a knock for player, the strength of the player? I don't know, because the one thing I know about the NBA is Kevin Durant is not usually a very good barometer for what's happening with the rest of the league. That's just not who he is. He's a guy who dances to his own beat, and like he's made his bed here. I think this is pretty damaging to him to go out there and have your representation, demand that, or to go into a meeting with an owner and demand that the coach and the general manager are fired or you want out, and then to back off of it later. I mean, again, it just doesn't look good. Like, is he a coach killer at this point? I don't know. Like, is he a franchise killer? You start to, like, those are things that are going to sneak into his legacy. And he already has a very sordid and confusing legacy for some people. I don't really prescribe to the whole, he chases rings and stuff like that. But at the same time, he's at fault here. He's a guy who is tremendously at fault. He's the one who decided to go join Super Team and push for guys like James Harden and play with a guy like Kyrie Irving. And it's not like you didn't know. Not like you didn't know that James Harden's out of shape half the time. It's not like you didn't know that Kyrie Irving can be completely crazy. So, like, this is kind of his bed. He's got to sleep in it. And, we'll see. 4 years. I kind of hope that they get stuck in mediocrity and this is how it ends for him. Just 4 years of, all right, 45 to 55 wins, but getting bounced in the second round every year. And that's what you kind of hope, because, he's been pretty destructive.
That's pretty harsh.
Like, you don't think he's been destructive? He went to the owner and told him, either you fire those two dudes or I want to be traded.
So
got $200 million still on the books.
So let me ask you this, James. What if he's right? What if he's right? What if they're terrible at their job? What if they are hindering them from going to another level? Like, we hear these things and we just assume because the player says that they're in the wrong. He could be 100% right. These two are the reason why we can't progress.
We don't
know either way, but we got to put that into consideration too. He could be spot on.
I get that, but was it Sean Marks's fault that Kevin Durant asked him to go sign DeAndre Jordan, who couldn't play anymore? Like, is that on Sean Marks?
No, but that ain't got nothing to do with whether or not they're good or not.
Well, sure it does. I'm not sure about you, but
last year.
But isn't Sean Marks the guy who went out and put a super team together? Like, he was able to accomplish it. Not every GM is able to.
DeAndre Jordan is why they didn't win the championship last year. Like the year they took the Bucks to 7.
No, but it's certainly one of the reasons why you have salary cap, issues, or why you have roster management issues at some point. Like, look, if you're going to help make decisions on who and what is your team is going to look like, then you need to share in the responsibility for what it looks like when your idea to bring in DeAndre Jordan doesn't work at all. Like, you're part of that decision. He was part of that decision. He shared in that decision. And sure, you could have said, Sean Marks, the mistake you made was signing a guy who had blown Achilles and letting him sit for a year, but then also letting him have some power in the decisions on who is going to get signed and who's not. And, like, look, I'm a guy who really, I enjoy Kevin Durant. Like, I've been around Kevin Durant.
It does not sound like it.
Yeah, well, but at what point what point do players just get to completely run amok and then, like, this is the outcome? Like, we spent the entire summer, not knowing whether it's...
Let me ask you this.
Shout out to KD for the content.
If Kevin Durant goes to... Or excuse me, if Sean Marks goes to Kevin Durant and he says, I'm thinking about signing Steve Nash as the coach, You good with that? And Durant goes, yeah, I'm good with that. Is KD's decision to sign Steve Nash?
No, that's a totally different situation.
That's what we hearing though.
No, you're saying that he went and asked him. No, that's different than DeAndre Jordan. I mean, the DeAndre Jordan thing, he went to management and said
Jordan was insignificant with
no,
whether
but
or not they won.
Yeah, but I mean, they went to him, and
if Kyrie doesn't roll his ankle into oblivion last year, they probably beat the Bucks and win the NBA championship.
Well, maybe
DeAndre Jordan ain't got nothing to do really with where they've been the last 2 years. That's that's like me saying Sean Marks is at fault for signing LaMarcus Aldridge.
No,
or Blake Griffin.
Yeah, but it was more money than that. Those are low-level contracts. Those are veteran minimum contracts that they signed those guys to. I mean, those are itty-bitty contracts that you're talking about. And as far as the Steve Nash situation, if Sean Marks went to him and said, hey, what do you think about me bringing in Steve Nash as a head coach? Well, they had a relationship. Nash was around the Golden State Warriors during his time there. So if he's asking him, it's like, what do you think about Steve Nash? I mean, I get that. I'm not going to blame him 100% unless we hear that Durant said, hey, go get me Steve Nash as the head coach. Mm-hmm. Then I think we have,
which did not happen.
Yeah, that didn't happen. So I'm not going to blame him for that. Just like I don't think Damian Lillard went out and said, hey, can you sign Chauncey Billups as a head coach? Because that's not what we've heard, that he was the driving force behind that. So, look, before he went full super team, Sean Marks was building something nice there.
I agree.
He had really he drafted well. He brought in the right types of players. His teams played hard for him. The culture was good there. And then you chose a different path. And I get you choose a different path here in a major market. You can choose a different path in that situation.
But really, he didn't. He signed Kevin Durant. He signed Kyrie. Where Sean Marks loses me is the idiotic decision to go trade for James Harden. That's all, because everything you just said, he blew up for James Harden, which ultimately blew up in his face.
He did that. Sean Marks did that. From everything we hear, Sean Marks did that.
There wasn't a conversation behind the scenes with Kevin Durant.
It was like the Steve Nash thing of are you cool with this? He's like, yeah, I'm cool with it.
All right. Well, I mean, and again, that's a player that Kevin Durant opened his career with, played with in OKC. He knew James Harden very well. He knew what he was getting into. Maybe it's a little bit older version of James Harden, but it's not like they weren't friends still. It's not like they didn't play on all-star teams together and everything else.
Wanted to play with was Kyrie. That was the guy who was like, we're going to play together. I think the James Harden thing presented itself, and it was like, all right. I don't think Sean Marks should have done it, whether Kevin Durant came to him or not. And I don't know if Kevin Durant did or not. I would have no. We right there. We don't need to do this. We right there. We don't need to do this.
Yeah. I would have agreed with that. But again, I'm not a James Harden fan,
Neither am I. Let's go to our corners. Go get some water. Everybody go to their corners, take the mouthpiece out. We'll come back. Because we'll go from Kevin Durant to James. I'm going to ask you. Someone's going to ask out. Someone's going to ask to be traded, even if it's not Kevin Durant. Who's it going to be? We'll discuss that when D'Lo and Casey return with 1320 Kings Insider James Ham here on ESPN 1320. Clear.
And
I just want to point something out real quick. I might not be able to find it. I didn't start with. Okay, yeah, Sean. I'm just going to point out real quick. That's wrong. Casey will. That is absolutely wrong.
Saw that, Sean.
One, Coach won't miss one. Two, Kenny definitely ain't missing six.
Are you out of your damn mind? Take a nap, Sean. Take a nap. I ain't never shot 4 or 10 in an open shooting competition in my life.
I have.
Be a good day for me.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
I'd be leaving 4 or 10. Let's go, baby. I'm a 40% shooter. I'm better than Kara in the pro. Got it. I'm better than Birdie.
And the other thing about this thing, though, people are like, KD killed the Nets, and Nets are dead. Nets are they have the 4th best odds to win the championship.
Nets are absolutely championship contenders.
What are we?
And the wild card is what if Ben Simmons can play?
Yeah.
Not like Kenny, physically, but what if Ben Simmons just picks up his a solid defender again.
Yeah.
And a great distributor. I don't know. Just asking. Broadcast journalist.
Nets are okay. I wouldn't say they're fine. They're okay though. They're okay.
I see you, Seth. Is Seth Curry a superstar? Oh man.
You know what though? Like they could be totally fine too. Like they did sign T.J. Warren. They've got Seth Curry. They've got
Still got Nick Claxton, Patty Mills. They still got good pieces there.
Joe Harris is coming back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have to see who and what Joe Harris is when he does get back. But
just in case they got Seth Curry though. So
yeah, just giving up Jared Allen, that was rough. Giving up Karis LeVert, that was rough. I mean, that's a lot that you gave up for Harden, and
they could have had Spencer Dinwiddie still. Could have had him.
Well, he was there until midway through last season.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they could have still had him on the squad.
Yeah,
they let that go.
I still like them. I think this is all. I honestly think Kevin Durant's one of those rare people who, like, some people like you have a James and I have a fight, and like it lingers, and a week later, hey, we good? Yeah, James, we good. Whatever. Like, we're fine. I feel like KD is the type of guy who's like, all right, we're going forward with Steve Nash. All right, cool. And like he's good. Like he doesn't think about it again. Like I honestly think he can compartmentalize that way. Like the Draymond Green stuff. I think he wanted to punch Draymond Green in the throat? Absolutely. By the time that whole thing was over, do I think he did? No. I was like, it's good. We passed that.
Like it's whatever. We moving. We're trying to win games.
Yeah,
he's super laid back and chill. Super laid back and chill.
Right.
Yeah.
And people get all worked up when he claps at people on Twitter. Like he's tweeting. Literally what we all do. That's all he's doing.
Right.
Yeah, he's a lot more of a normal dude than most people. I think that's like even the Twitter thing, like when he does tweet, it's usually very aimed, like I don't know
Pat
that
Beverly.
he's crazy all the time. Or Pat Bev, I think, has hot takes on the Twitter box and when he goes on.
Pat Bev.
Yeah. Pat Bev, yeah, he does some wild he's wild.
Hey, Pat Bev better ball out this year. He had a crazy offseason. He better ball out. He was gonna be on his head if he not.
Well, I think he'll end up in LA. I think this will start the sell-off that is the Utah Jazz. So.
Oh man.
And superstar Russell Westbrook will go to Utah and get a buyout.
All right. We're not going to do this, James. If he had I would legit be sad if he had to play in Utah. I didn't care that he had to play with the Lakers. I would be sad if he had to play in Utah.
Oh, I think they'll just buy him out.
Oh, I'm sure they would. I'd still be sad. I don't know where he'd sign though. Like honest to God, as much as I love him, I don't know where he fits.
Yeah, he'll just go to the Nets because KD will ask for him.
Bro.
Oh, stop it, James. We're coming back. Hang on. Well, he might be with the Knicks, come to think about it. If might be with the Knicks. Hang on. We just got Russell Westbrook to the New York Knicks. That was the commercial break right there, folks.
So let's go.
We appreciate you for being with us. Steelo and KC along with James Ham here, brought to you by McQueen and the Violet Fog, the smoothest gin in the world, handcrafted in Brazil. But that does segue nicely into the next part of the conversation as we were, and I'm going to mention an uncomfortable name here, but we asked, okay, the KD situation has kind of resolved itself. Donovan Mitchell hasn't asked for a trade. Oh, by the way, this is an organizational decision regarding Donovan Mitchell, and he hasn't been traded. But I think the overall belief is at some point, whether it be before the season starts, some point relatively soon, Donovan Mitchell is probably going to be traded. Who do you think, and history says it's going to happen, who do you think is the next player, the next star level player that asks out of their contract?
Well, that's interesting. Well, I mean, we know that Danny Ainge at least has two mystery teams out there that are bidding on Donovan Mitchell.
Danny Ainge, man, I swear. That dude running the same Boston Celtics playbook in Utah.
Yeah. Oh, no, he is. He's got He's got mystery teams like hiding in his back pocket.
My man's got a way of general managing, and he just sticks with it, even though he's not the general manager.
It's almost like he calls his friends like, "Hey, you want to be a mystery team?" They're like, "Sure, sure." What does that mean? He's like, "Oh, just wait for it. You'll find out tomorrow."
He run a mystery thing like a storyline on Raw or something.
Yeah, right.
Mystery team.
Mystery team? What's a mystery team? Yeah, like who's gonna be the next? That's a great question because I mean, aren't we running out of players that could possibly go somewhere else?
So I think two obvious candidates are Dame and Brad. And I don't think either one of those guys are actually going to ask out. Like Dame, I'm a little more sketchy of. I honestly don't think Bradley Beal cares. I think he's perfectly fine being in Washington. I don't think he wants them to suck, but I think he's perfectly happy where he's at. Dame, I kind of believe that, but I do wonder a little bit. The name that Kenny and I settled on, and it could happen as soon as next offseason, is Joel.
Okay. I mean, that's very possible, but I mean, they've done what he's asked. Like, he wants better players around him. They went out and got better players. I think one of the downfalls to what they've done there is, like, they've overpaid guys that, are good players, but not great players. I mean, we can go back to the Tobias Harris contract, which is just obscene. I mean, for a guy, he's a good player, but I mean, the fact that he's owed like $80 million over 2 years or close to it is just crazy talk. And so you've had that team go out and try to like make splashes and do. They've also done like, hey, we'll bring in the veteran guys like Danny Green. We need more shooting. They've done things to actually like sort of build that thing out. But I think the best thing they've done is like when they stumbled upon a Matisse Thybulle or they're able to get a Tyrese Maxey. It's the things that franchises normally do to improve and to get better. They draft well. They make smart decisions. It's when they get in this craziness that is what we're seeing with the Nets that they tend to get in trouble. Like if you just stayed the course and just brought in like just better players, but not superstar players, you probably could have built something and put him in a position to win. And then the whole time you're waiting for him to break. I mean, I think that's the biggest problem with Embiid, and he could ask to go other places, and there will be other places that want him. But at the same time, you're always worried, especially as he's hitting 29, 30, 31, that like he's just not going to be able to sustain because of the myriad of injuries that have plagued him throughout his career.
Yeah. It feels like, and Damon, you said it perfectly, we're running out of guys to get to this point. We're at like a perfect blend of young up and coming players and they're just about to get like their first rookie extension and established guys who are locked up for like the next 5 years. Like there's not a lot. I know next year's free agent class is has some hitters in there, but there's not a lot of guys that like usually when you see these trades is somebody with like a year and a half left on the deal. And you trade maybe a rental and you take your chance with them. What guys are like that right now? Like a lot of these guys got 3-4 years on the deal.
You're right. KD had 4. And again, I know there's a difference. Donovan Mitchell's got 3.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Ben Simmons had 4.
Right. So maybe the wins, maybe we've gone from a year to a year and a half to just sign the extension and ask for a trade. Maybe that's where we are.
That's why I threw Zion in there.
I don't see that one.
That's a good one because there's been enough like smoke there that he's unhappy with things, and again, he's going to get blamed if they don't win. Even though how do you blame a guy that's just like half the time is grossly out of shape, and then the other half of the time is sitting out and not playing games? Like, how do you blame him for the fact that you can't win? The idea of him, sure, I guess you can blame, but I think he could be one. I think, again, if we start seeing, like, here's one I'll throw at you. What if the Phoenix Suns flame out, Chris Paul is done, and Devin Booker's looking around like, hey, I don't know if that I want to be here for this mess because the post Chris Paul era, do you have the players? You just spent a ton of money on Ayton, and so that really hamstrings your ability to go out and do other things. So that is one that might become, especially, again, with Ayton as a player who did not want to be there, who didn't want them to sign to match the extension and all that stuff. So you could see that becoming like a toxic situation. Hey, here in Sacramento, Sacramento Kings are in line to lose Domantas Sabonis in free agency. You bet your lucky stars that De'Aaron Fox won't want to be part of another rebuild at age 26, 27. So, yeah.
So that was the uncomfortable name I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Because, obviously, I think the Devin Booker thing is a long shot, though it makes complete sense and it's intriguing. It's hard.
He loves Phoenix.
What's that?
I think he loves that area. It would take a lot for him to say, I don't want to be here no more.
What's a lot, though?
Is the potential? No, but I kind of get your point. Like, the potential for it being really bad for some reason seems like it's there. It shouldn't be, but given the DeAndre Ayton stuff, kind of the overall, like you kind of wonder much longer Chris Paul is going to hold up. I get the idea of this going from 64 wins to really, really bad quickly. I get that. I don't think it's likely, but I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the uncomfortable thing. Sorry, James, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but at what point do we start seeing like the Kentucky connection? A bunch of dudes from Kentucky, like, hey, let's go do this somewhere. Guys like Bam, guys like De'Aaron. There's a group of them.
We waited years for the Banana Boat crew to get together, and
that's true.
Well,
that's true.
New York is the place.
Well, they always think they're the place. They're never the place.
But no, that was always the rumor. Cat and Brooke.
Carmelo, Chris Paul, all of them are going to go play in New York.
Well, not even New York. It's Worldwide West. Like in the Kentucky connection. The rumor until Cat signed his deal was Cat and Devin were going to New York for Worldwide West. That's one of the reasons why they got him there. So when you talk about a Kentucky connection, it was the Knicks and Worldwide West.
Okay, so I'll make a movie reference here that I think fits. But have you guys seen Spaceballs? Spaceballs, the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen it.
So there's this scene where they track down like the four good guys. They escape and they go in. They've got them. They're freeze. They're all facing the opposite way, and they all turn around, and it's their stunt doubles. That's the New York Knicks in a nutshell. Every time you think you got like the 4 superstars or 3 superstars are coming to your way, no, you get their stunt doubles. That's what the Knicks get every time.
So just for the streaming crowd, Dr. David's, that's Spaceballs right there, right? On his avatar. Isn't that the character from Spaceballs?
Yeah, that's Lord Helmet, Rick Moranis. Too hot.
Yeah. I know I've seen it's the Star Wars gimmick thing. Yeah, I've seen it.
So Pragmatic Pessimist says, yeah, we caught him. Yeah, they turn around and they're like, who are you guys? And they're like, we're their stunt doubles. And it's like a guy wearing a dress, like it's their total stunt doubles, like they're holding coffee, like drinking, like, hey, what's going on, guys? It's like, oh no, we caught their stunt doubles. That's, to me, the Knicks always catch the stunt doubles of the really big, great, like, stars. Like, oh, look at that.
We're going to get Karl Anthony Towns. We got Julius Randle.
Or, hey, we're going to sign LeBron. They start stacking up all these names, and you end up with Amari Stoudemire, Carmelo Anthony, and you're like,
wait a
minute.
Yeah, we done got the stunt doubles. That's what my point.
Hold on a damn minute, James, with this more Carmelo slander. Carmelo ain't no stunt double.
He's a stunt double. Stunt double. It is Dark Helmet. I'm sorry, you're right. It is Dark Helmet. Yeah, not Dark. It's Lone Star and Dark Helmet. Yeah.
Corners of Ham's culture here with D'Lo and Casey.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a De'Aaron reference. I don't remember. Oh, you mentioned De'Aaron. The uncomfortable thing about De'Aaron is if this doesn't work, he might not have to ask. Like if this thing fails this year, De'Aaron might not have to ask for anything. It could just be, well, we've done it can't be done. Like, we can't do it.
No,
And
you're right. I mean, and
it sucks, but like, I feel like that's kind of an uncomfortable reality.
well, yeah, and he's going to be talking to somebody else who's making that decision, most likely too, if it doesn't work out. So,
Right.
yeah. I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how much time Monte has left on his contract, and it's not much. Monte's having those D'Lo contract extensions going well.
Well,
The King's going to come to work like, do we got a GM on Monday? I'm not. What are we supposed to do?
No, I mean, that's not the way it should be, but, that's...
No, it's not, but it's the way. I agree, James. That is not the way it should be. But I guess that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we haven't heard anything about that from Monte, huh? I mean, everybody's probably gone. Nobody's really even doing anything right now, huh?
No, I check in once a month, and it's always the same. No, there's not been a conversation. No, I mean,
a conversation.
Like maybe at this point, but I mean, it's been maybe 2 weeks since I checked in, and the answer was the same that it's been the entire time.
So real quick, let me ask you this. Ultimately, I think that when you say like there hasn't been a conversation, I mean that should kind of be on the Kings. But this also goes to what Damian's talked about sometimes. Like, I feel like if I was Monte, like, yeah, there would be a conversation because I need to know, like, whether they give me the extension at that point or not. That's a whole different story. But no conversation, that kind of goes both ways, right? Like, and I don't know, maybe that's not how these things work. But if I'm Monte, I'm talking to whoever, like, yo, do you have plans for me, or what's the conversation here that we need to have to figure out where I'm at with this franchise?
Should I use Kenny's Redfin password that he sent me?
Right, like there should be a conversation that has happened.
Yeah, I mean, you got me. There's been like a lot of speculation about it, a lot of conversation about it, but we are in the dog days when a lot of this gets forgotten about. And I know a lot of people always go, oh, well, this is usually that time where some of these deals get done. That's not my experience at all. I totally disagree with that. These deals get done when you're bringing in a new coach. You go, oh yeah, and by the way, we matched up him with a new 3-year deal that gets him here for the first 3 years of, the Mike Brown's contract, whatever, or a 3-year extension, which holds him, through the 4 years of Mike Brown, which is what we expect. Yeah.
I think Monte gets an extension before the season starts.
I
do not think that's something you want. And maybe it won't linger over the organization because maybe the players look at it the way a lot of fans do. Like, I'm looking at Chester's comment right here. Maybe everybody looks at it this way. What Monte did this offseason looks really nice. We need to see the results on the floor. And we can't really do much. Like, look, hey, thank you. Great job. We need to know that this works. Yeah. And then we'll go from there. Yeah. I don't think it goes that far, but maybe it does.
I just think you're putting everybody in a strange situation where You're going into no one likes to be a lame duck, and his tenure, he's not even to the 2-year mark. That's what people like. He didn't even start until late September. I think it was September 20th. After the bubble and everything, because of the way the offseason was built that year. So while this is his 3rd year. He hasn't been here that long at all.
Monte McNair's on the same trajectory as D'Lo and Casey. We all started around the same time.
That's right.
We started a couple of days after. I think Vlade was stepped down on the Friday.
Yeah.
Right? And we started the show on Monday.
Step down.
Yeah, step down. Yes.
Step down. Yeah.
A lot of people were stepping down in the Kings organization over the last few years.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just think that's one of those. It's one of the few things that can actually cause a situation with the team. I don't think the play on the court would necessarily be a weird, situation. But it's not just that Mike Brown was his hire. It's that Domantas Sabonis was his trade. Like, Keegan Murray was his pick. The first thing he did as a general manager of the Kings was sign De'Aaron Fox to a massive extension. Yeah. So, I mean, there's 3 players left from the team he took over. And so I know there's even like people out there that think I don't like Monte McNair and that I have some issue with him because they've like done a 180 with media availability and stuff like that. I don't have any issues with Monte McNair. I think he's done a pretty stellar job for a situation that has never been easy for anyone. And like I've said it from the day he made the trade for Sabonis. That's a point where you probably got to give a guy a 2-year extension, like right away, because now you got to let him play it out. You got to let him be the guy who holds the thing together, builds the thing the right way, and all that. But like, I don't have any issues with McNair. I don't love every single deal that he's done and the path that he's taken and the decisions that he's made, but he's done a lot better job than most of the people that have come through here and worked in his position or in a position like this in the Kings organization. And I think again, like stability is a good thing. This place has never had stability. Giving a guy 3 years, that's not stability, especially when you're talking about building out an entire program. We're talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder that are going to literally lose a bunch of games for the third straight year. Like, there's no talk at all about Sam Presti and
he's
what
a
he's
genius.
done. Yeah, he's a genius, but you got a guy who's completely rebuilt and revamped the entire face of a franchise over less than 2 years. That's nuts.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you, Ham. I agree with Damien that I think something will get done. I would make sure he's locked up. But I mean, what Chester said is kind of spot on. Like, what's the confusion if everybody?
And I didn't read Chester's message out loud, by the way. He was essentially saying if the team wins, he's here.
Yeah.
If they don't, he's not.
Maybe I'm off base. I also don't see nothing wrong with that because and that's just the emphasis that I place on this particular season. If you can't get it done this season, everybody probably need to go. Everybody. So,
well, I've said this too, Kenny. If you are the guy who turns it around and they haven't come to you and given you the contract offer and you're midway through the season, you got this team 10 games over 500, I sit back and I say, you know what? We'll deal with this after the season when I'm a free agent and I can deal with a lot of other teams that might like the fact that I just rebuilt the Sacramento Kings that missed the playoffs for 16 consecutive years. So you don't want to pay me now. We'll see what it looks like if I'm able to turn this thing all the way around. And let's see if there's a team that puts me in a better situation. That might be closer to somewhere that I want to live or in a different place. And then we'll have that discussion. But that discussion is a different discussion. It's whether you can retain me, not whether or not, whether
I believe
you're
what
give me a
James is
contract
saying
extension.
is yesterday's price is not
it's
today's
not
price.
today's price. And the Kings might go, we already got the players. Leave if you want. You already did the work.
That'd be a very Kings thing to do for
Yeah.
sure.
You want.
I don't think this is speaking out of turn. I feel like we've discussed this before. You don't have to use numbers. Monty's on the lower end of, like, if we rank general manager salaries, is he on the lower end of that? Is he closer to 30 than 1?
Yeah. And I'd even say this, like, if he is being brought back, like, I don't think he's doing it for what they're paying him now.
Right. That's kind of what I was getting
for that matter, like Wes Wilcox, if he were to somehow slide into the position instead, he ain't doing it for the money that they've paid him the last 2.5 years. Like that's not the way it goes.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, we're wrapping up here, but Wes Wilcox, like, there's. Appreciate everybody who may be listening to this show. The Wes Wilcox, like, assistant general manager thing, just, I feel like he's not the assistant. I feel like he's just looming. And I always thought Wes was like a security blanket, like, in case things didn't work out with Monte. Like, oh, we got Wes Wilcox. It's fine. There's no general manager search if this doesn't work out with Monte because we've got Wes Wilcox. That's always kind of been whether that's fair or not. It's just the way the hiring, the whole thing, it was just weird. I don't know.
That might be the way it's pitched. Like, if something does go that way in the future, like, I would say that's how it's going to be pitched. But, like, I say that's a good thought, but that's not the way like a good portion of the people are going to view you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like a lot of people are going to view you as, especially if he's able to turn this thing around, like, hey, that's on you.
And if he does resign, Wes might be like, well, I can't get a job here. I'm out.
Go to thank God we got Nani to step in as the assistant general manager.
Thank you.
That's at Nani, who changed the fortunes of this organization. Yeah, I mean, hey, you laugh if you want to. Everything changed today. She was named the assistant general manager of the Stockton Kings. Head over to thekingsbeat.com. Become a premium subscriber. You do not want to miss Off the Record virtual happy hour part 8. Let's get physical. Did I get that? With Pete Youngman tomorrow. You can only be a part of it if you're a premium subscriber. Go to thekingsbeat.com.